Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5 Tips and Tricks for Careers in Athletics. I am your host, Dr. Maury Masovitz, with my favorite, best all-time co-host, Jen Albanese.
Wow.
Hey, Jen.
The list keeps getting longer. Hello, Maury. How are you?
I feel by the end of the podcast, it'll just be me listing how wonderful you are for the whole
That'll be the whole
podcast.
You're too sweet. What's going on? How are you, sir?
Oh, things are going well. Things are nice, and get a little bit of respite right now, which is great.
Nice. We have such a good guest today. I'm so excited. Something a little different than what we've had the last few episodes. So this is going to be good.
Absolutely. Someone from the medical side, which is something that I think is great for people to hear that are interested in that. So I'm glad we have him coming on. He's going to be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and we obviously don't, super get involved with all the medical side of things at our job. Maury, you probably more than me, but
a little bit.
We've definitely had our experiences, at games and whatnot with medical type situations and emergencies. The one that always sticks out to me is the one at the basketball game a few years ago here in Syracuse. So, I mean, Maury, you were closer to that. You should tell the story.
We've had some unfortunately for them, some bad things with good results, but
of course.
I think the one that you were talking was the band member, right?
Yes.
We had a member of the band during a basketball game had a medical emergency, and just in the middle of the game just fell to the ground, and was had to be resuscitated, and it was amazing to see. And to me, and in my role, I am closer to things. I actually help implement getting people in and out, and making sure that they're, we're able to facilitate what they need. And I remember, and I've seen many of these, but unfortunately the young person that happened to was blue. Like I never saw that before. And it was so scary that all their blood was kind of rushed out, and, very fortunate for them. Not only did we have our amazing medical staff in the building, but our physician that, what people might not realize is the big stadiums, you have a doctor and nurse in the facility that just deal with patrons and support. We have a medical staff that helps with the sports side of it, and are dedicated to student athletes and the people. Right. And so they all actually are separate. Some people think, oh, well, you have a doctor and the doctor that helps
send the doctor up there.
It's a different doctor that helps them. And we have a luckily wonderful medical professionals that help with the patrons. And he was very close by, and I watched him resuscitate this person, and it was just, and he works in an emergency room, our physician that works in the building, which was awesome. And, it was just a great story because, the student got brought to our hospitals, which we are very lucky to have some amazing hospitals very close to the stadium.
Like literally down the street.
Yeah, very close.
Like you could walk.
They, basically, if this doctor didn't do what they did and revive them and bring them back, they would have been gone and in the middle of all their peers in the band. And it was just one of those things that I will always kind of remember. And it's one of those examples of how awesome the medical staff is, and how lucky we are to have some of these people that put their time into being a part of our operation. So
just incredible. I mean, obviously on the world stage with the whole Damar Hamlin situation that happened a year or so ago. I mean,
which is crazy because we know the trainer that actually helped revive Damar.
But it really put a spotlight on the medical folks that work in sports, that they're so important, and it's so behind the scenes that you never really see it. It's like a thankless job.
Yeah, they've been undervalued for a long time.
So it was so cool. I mean, obviously, thank God the Damar Hamlin thing had a great ending too, but it was so great to see the attention that those folks got. And I think that was and then it kind of just trickled down to all other areas, in other sports and whatnot. Those medical staffs were all recognized and congratulated. And I think that was so important because they go so undervalued and unrecognized, which I think is what they kind of want to. That's just
right. They're not people that stand up and say pay attention.
They're not looking for the attention, but it was great to be able to give that attention. Obviously well deserved. I mean, they save people's lives all the time.
Yeah,
so,
I feel really fortunate. Our staff gets to do a lot of trainings with our medical staff and work really closely with them for different things. So, I feel really fortunate because they're one of the best groups to work with, and have had amazing relationships with people that have worked in the medical side over the years. So it's been great. So
yeah,
and that one of the people today we're going to get an opportunity to talk to. So.
It'll be great. It'll be awesome. So perfect.
After these messages, we'll be back with our guest. If you're enjoying this podcast, please follow us on your favorite podcast streaming service. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast is a part of Athletic Career Consulting, a group focused on educating and guiding high school and college students looking towards careers in athletics. To find out more, go to our website at www.athcareer.com. That's ATHCAREER.
Hi, everybody. Okay, welcome back. Maury, would you like to introduce our guest today?
Very exciting to have someone from the world of medicine today. Today's guest is from the world of sports medicine, developing his career around professional soccer. He attended both Boston University and Quinnipiac. He served as a graduate assistant athletic trainer at Syracuse and BU. His career continued with athletic training positions at Fairleigh Dickinson, Seton Hall, and the University of Wisconsin. In the last few years, he's focused on soccer, holding positions at Minnesota United FC, and currently serves as the athletic therapist for Orlando City Soccer Club. He is a member of the Professional Soccer's Athletic Trainers Society and the Soccer's Athletics Trainers Association. I might say that wrong. You can fix it. He has been with teams that have won Big Ten Conference Championships, U.S. Open Cups, CONCACAF Championships Leagues, and CONCACAF Championships Cups. We are very happy to have join us Mitch Toda today. Welcome, Mitch.
Hi, Mitch.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
I totally messed up your associations. I apologize to your associations and to you. I'm trying to read through it, and I was like, there's a lot of important things here.
He's just big time. He's just so big time that there are so many associations. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's all a repeat of the same words, so it's all
Oh.
Well, Mitch, we were talking about, we went back a very long time because I was in college and you were a GA, and that's how we first got to know each other. And then we were talking about people that would be great to be on the podcast, and someone said, "Hey, you should reach out to Mitch," and now you're here.
Yeah, definitely can say that I've come quite a long way since the Syracuse days. I'll touch on it a little bit later because it's actually one of my talking points. But
nice.
Yeah, no, it's been a long personal development growth process throughout my career. So,
well, that's awesome, and you've been doing awesome things, and definitely have clearly focused a lot on soccer in the last few years.
Yeah, I grew up playing, and I had an opportunity to play or at least be on the team for 3 seasons in college. So it's definitely been a lifelong passion of mine. And so I really think I'm very fortunate to be able to, work in the highest level of this sport in the country. And, it really is a blessing that, I don't take for granted.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Well, we're
so
looking
good.
forward to hearing your tips. So why don't you start off with the first one?
Yeah. First one is what people see on TV, and I'll even add social media on game day is maybe 10% of what you do, but maybe 90% of how you are judged by the audience. So that one is it's not like an actual published, data set or anything like that. It's just, numbers off the top of my head really. But, I kind of have a story to go along with it. Back in May of 2022, the Women's Pro Soccer League in the U.S., NWSL, had a championship final for the Challenge Cup, which is, I believe, Washington Spirit against North Carolina. And during that game, there was and I wasn't there. I was obviously working in the MLS side, but an injury happened during the game, and it required an emergency medical response from the Washington athletic training staff. The emergency action plan was initiated, and paramedics were walking the gurney onto the field from the far corner of the stadium, and players ran on and jumped into action to hurry the paramedics to the injured player. And there was like a public outcry of how the players had to come and save the situation, and et cetera, et cetera. And
oh my gosh,
seeing it from a medical standpoint, I actually had an opportunity to see a few videos on Twitter, and obviously looking at it retrospectively, right? Like I looked at it afterwards. From an athletic training standpoint, I really thought the medical staff did exactly what they needed to do.
Yeah.
Right. Their preparation was good. The end product, which was to get the player, packaged up and transported to the hospital with, in collaboration with the docs and the paramedics, I thought everything went well. But there was a lot of that criticism on social media based on people giving their opinions, even though most of them probably did not have the background of having, a medical or even a, sporting knowledge of that level. So,
right.
The perception that, the athletic training staff maybe, or the sports medicine staff, the people that were taking care of this player got, I thought was just a little bit unfair. Right. And so
100%.
It kind of goes back to the preparation that, I think that staff in particular they were ready to take on that situation, and they were they were really able to take care of the player well. But what people perceive is maybe not aligned always with what's happening, and so you kind of have to learn to tune out the noise a little bit. And when the noise gets a little bit too much, sometimes you have to just go back to having confidence in the process, right? And making sure that you're like, hey, you know what, we did everything right, and we got the outcome that we wanted. And even though sometimes we don't get the outcome we wanted, like even let's say a sporting team, they do everything right in practice leading up to the game, but then they end up losing the game. Well, if they did everything right and they were supposed to do everything that they were supposed to do in a game, but they just didn't pull off a win, sometimes that happens, right? And that's not always controllable. So
you can put in 100% effort and not get the outcome you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think it's important to take a step back and not be so results oriented all the time.
It's funny that you talk about this, because it does come up in other areas around medical. All the time I'll hear, well, there was an issue at the stadium, and it looked like the EMS were walking, and I'm like, no, they're actually carrying all these bags. They're trying not to trip downstairs and get to people, and their response time is under what most national areas are, and people just don't want to. In the moment, it seems like forever.
Right.
And in reality, if you're not safe in getting to them or making it, preparing properly, it doesn't matter what you do, there's not going to be a good outcome. So, the perception is such a crazy thing, and you hear it all the time. Or, I was weirdly, Mitch, it wasn't even on purpose. My staff did an in-service with our medical staff today to do cross training. And we talked about, backboarding and support if people needed it. And, being calm and making sure that everything's taken care of to not hurt the person more. And people don't realize that, there's ways of going about it, and that they might not have that knowledge.
Yeah. And, if you think about, let's say in a high school setting, or even youth sports setting, you're not always going to have an ambulance right there. Right. So,
no, you're not.
When you have someone that's able to respond right away, sometimes you're lucky, right? A parent might be an athletic trainer or a doctor or a nurse. And, if a child collapses on the soccer field, there may not be always, someone that's going to be able to take care of them right away. So, compared to that, I think we are over preparing, and rightly so, for high level collegiate and obviously professional sports. And, we're constantly trying to raise the standards that way so that we really promote the safety and health and wellness of the participants.
Well, that was a great start.
That's great.
Good job.
Yeah.
So what do we have for your second tip?
Number 2, people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. And this is a quote that has stuck with me since my grad school days at Syracuse. Actually, actually, Troy was the one that said this to me, and
there you go.
It's really stuck. This concept I think applies to anyone working in sports, whether you're an athletic trainer, a physical therapist, even a doctor, coach, etc. And it's also applicable to many other settings. So, if you look online, doctors and physical therapists and other healthcare providers who have the best ratings are the ones with a good bedside manner, right? They might not be the best at whatever, but if the physician or that caregiver shows empathy and is willing to listen to you as a patient and is willing to work with you, and they may not have the same views as you, but they still take the time to understand where you're coming from and are willing to work with you. I think that is what those healthcare providers get rated for. And it's no different for people like myself, right? I can go through someone's rehab after an injury, but if I'm just telling them, yep, this is what you're doing today, and not taking into account how are you feeling today? Are you sore from yesterday's workout? Is this exercise too hard for you, or is it too easy for you? Getting that live feedback and really listening to the patient, it really makes it difficult to, work together to achieve a common goal. So again, this is something that has really stuck with me throughout my career, and I've tried to really live by that ever since hearing it. So
I find it interesting because I feel like every time I know when athletes come back to visit, I feel like the training room is a spot that is like one of the first places they go to.
Yes.
Because of the relationships that, you guys as professionals build with. And I've heard it even with people that work in professional levels that like someone goes to a new team, but when they're playing against somebody, they're always looking for the trainer or someone that helped them because you build such a interesting relationship with them. Like you're a caregiver in so many aspects. And if, to have that be a successful outcome for them, it's so important. And, to see that in real life.
Yeah. I think athletic trainers in particular have a very, unique way of building a relationship with particularly collegiate athletes, because, this might be the first time away from home, for these kids. And as the day-to-day, provider for health and wellness, you're almost the,
like the parent,
yeah,
like the second parent for them,
yeah. Well, I'd prefer uncle maybe, or older brother, but
older brother, cool uncle. It's fine.
But yeah, it really does make a difference in their perception of us as caregivers if we are willing to listen to them.
And then you build that trust with them too, so they feel like they can ask you questions and you can help guide them. I think that, and really across everything, even not just athletic training, building relationships with people, we've said this numerous times, helps you get so much farther and helps you become more successful if you have those genuine relationships that you build and that trust that you build. So
I'll even go a step further, and I think that's the thing that I think people find most special about working in the settings that we do, right? Is the relationships that we get to build, whether it's with your colleagues and coworkers, or if it's with the students that come in. So yeah, I cherish that a lot for sure.
It's kind of funny because I think a lot of people, you're talking about like what you see from the outside and perception. I think a lot of people's perception is like what they see on TV and the flashiness. And I agree with you. It's the relationships that really kind of have motivated me to want to be in the industry and to stay in these roles that we've been in. So,
for
awesome.
Sure. That was a good one. Another good one.
Okay, Jen, what are we on? You got to keep
We're on
me
number 3.
There
We're
you
on
go.
number 3. Third tip.
Yep. So this one actually kind of ties in. I think a lot of them are starting to tie in a little bit, but number 3, opportunities come from relationships.
Yeah.
So building a professional network, I think, is very important. Being proactive and reaching out to people and being willing to learn from them, and being curious without expecting anything in return is a key that I would say is, you can cold call someone or write someone an email, that maybe it's someone that you see on social media and admire, or you've read people's journal articles for medicine or whatever it might be, and you can reach out to them. But if you reach out to them and just say what you want, that's not really a way to bridge that gap. I think if you start with a question, and show genuine curiosity about what the other person is offering, and then not expecting anything in return, right? Like the worst case scenario is they don't respond to you. The best case scenario really is, they respond and say, hey, you know what, let's, catch up over a Zoom call or, a coffee when you're in town or whatever it might be. And that's how you start building relationships, I think. And, to give you an example, actually, so during the COVID years, I left the professional soccer setting and was working in an outpatient orthopedic clinic setting. And after 2 years, right when I was starting to get the itch to get back into soccer, I got a call from a friend of mine who was the head athletic trainer here at Orlando City at the time. And he asked if I'd be interested in returning to the soccer world and joining him in Orlando. And for me, it was the right opportunity at the right time. And it all happened because I was very intentional about remaining connected with the people that I have built relationships with. And, during COVID times when, the sports world, and I mean the world in general, but the sports world particularly is in a really weird spot. I can really empathize with my colleagues, having to mask up and going through all these protocols and, really having to take care of not only the team, but the coaches and the staff that's traveling and all this stuff. And so just sending the messages, right, and being like, hey, how are you doing? Like, or after watching one of those games, I say, hey, congrats on the win.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well. Like, even just little things like that, I think made a difference and kind of created these opportunities for myself. So
that's awesome. Go ahead, Jen.
No, I was going to say, I love that, you talk about, keeping that professional network and continuing the connection. Like, you can start the connection and usually you're always asking for something, or like you said, or being curious, asking a question, but after either they help you, but continuing that relationship and checking in on them. Because I think students, in the beginning of their career, reaching out like, hey, I'm looking for an internship, I'm looking for a job, but then once they get it, they kind of stop that connection. It's continuing, that relationship. Like you said, checking in, how you doing? Great win the other day. Like that, I think goes so much farther because then you're just building that relationship. So even further down the line when you need them, those relationships and connections are there. That is so key.
Mitch, this might be a little it's on topic, but off topic, but how do you kind of build relationships with people that might not necessarily be athletic trainers, but like physical therapists or doctors? Like I know in the medical profession of sports, it's kind of a little different because you have a lot of different providers. How do you work with those relationships?
I don't really find it too difficult to honestly it's not any different, honestly. It's I'm not messaging athletic trainers as athletic trainers. I'm not messaging doctors as an athletic trainer to doctor. It's more like friend to friend, so I'm really trying to broaden it out to a person to person interaction rather than always a professional interaction, so I think social media platforms like LinkedIn is actually pretty I use it a lot just because I find a lot of stuff that people are doing that may be very innovative, and they actually want to share it online to the professional network. And I take a lot out of those things. And sometimes it's just a matter of, seeing, let's say, a doctor friend, someone who I've worked with in the past, maybe receives an award or something. You know what I mean? Like just anything.
Right.
You see it and you say, hey, that's really cool. Just drop them a message or a comment on LinkedIn. And, that just kind of, just dropping that seed, I think is really what's important. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
And,
so good.
It's funny because it's hard because the medical side of athletics, I think, is so different in some ways and some of the things because of all the different connections and providers. So it's interesting to hear how, you create networks socially and it develops. So moving on, number 4.
Yeah. Number 4, you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
So I am where I am because of the support that I received from my family, my friends, my colleagues, now my wife and kids, building a support system that is rooted in trust and psychological safety is a big key for my longevity in what I'm doing right now. Also a bonus, my wife is an athlete and a former coach. So she 100% understands my job and what I do for a living. And, so there's really no questions asked when I say that I have to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And life in athletics is, as you guys know, is never a 9-to-5 job. So it's really valuable to be able to turn it off, when I'm with my family and being able to stay present when I'm with my family and friends, away from work. So, really it comes down to how I even started my career, or how I even had a chance to start my career was, getting through school. My grandparents really helped me tremendously, covering a big chunk of my college tuition. So, if it wasn't for their support, I don't know if I'd be an athletic trainer today, right? I may be doing something completely different. And so really grateful for their support. I'm eternally grateful. And like I said in the beginning, I really do, feel lucky that I do what I do and in the setting that I do. And I really do not take it for granted. So.
Yeah, I think it's so much a part of where people don't understand, the world of athletics, and to have a support system around you, and to, believe it or not, part of, connecting with your family or, finding a spouse or a partner is having the right fit and educating them to what it is to be involved with this. And it kind of seems kind of crazy because, it sounds like it should be so easy to just, you found the person and they should understand everything. But the reality is that it's not a normal thing that happens all the time. You're traveling, or you're, having to deal with certain personalities, or, certain things you can't talk about because of privacy. And it's great that you can find a support system that connects and helps you.
Yeah, it's not a normal job. None of it is normal. And if they understand that, your family, your friends, your support system, that makes it a lot easier to be able to keep moving forward in your career. So
yeah, and for me, it's become a family-ish thing too.
Yes.
So
it has to.
My kids really enjoy coming to the games, and my oldest son tries to watch every game regardless of how late it is, and he gets really angry at us when we say, what, you gotta shut it down at halftime, so but they're really entrenched in my professional life as well, kind of living it along with me. And so I think that again, I feel very fortunate about that as well, that they're willing to do that, and they're happy to do that.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
Great.
We're coming to the last one. Jen,
all right,
throw out the last question.
All right. So what do you know now that you wish you knew then? So what do you know now that you wish you knew at the beginning of your career?
So this one I had to really think about when you guys tried to prepare me for this. I kind of have a few points to this, but I'm gonna summarize it by saying a good cultural fit is more conducive to individual and team success than knowledge or skills. Yeah. We see this a lot in athletes and teams all the time. A player might be, a really good player coming from a different school or a different professional team or whatever it might be. But if there's, not that chemistry with the new team, it might be difficult to find success right away. So to flip it to a general standpoint, I think, particularly with things like job hunting, you really need to, I think it's really important to do your homework. So doing some research before, going through the interview process and really knowing what you're walking into before you sign anything. So, if you find yourself in a situation where it's a bad cultural fit for you, it really does take a lot of energy and honestly bravery to leave and find something new. And I think you find yourself kind of beating yourself up for not being able to make it work. I've found myself in situations like that before. And kind of to bring it back to the start here. My first stop after getting my bachelor's degree, as you read earlier, Maury, was after getting my bachelor's, I was at Syracuse. I was a graduate assistant there for 1 year. I was young. I was naive. I was very much full of myself, I think, at the time. And I got there and I got humbled really quickly.
Yeah.
So
it can do that to you.
Yeah, Syracuse does that to you.
and looking back at my time there, I had just graduated from undergrad and I was, again, young and naive, and I was clearly not prepared for it, right? And a big part of it, honestly, is I didn't know myself well enough at the time to really know what I wanted, and I was lying to myself almost of like, hey, I'm big time. I want to, this is what I'm going to do, and I really didn't know, how I wanted to really carry myself and the impact that was going to have for my career and for myself. So, I was in a hurry. I was in a hurry to get to the top, and I really hadn't done enough work to discover myself. Right. So, now years later, having a set of values to live by and figuring out what's most important in my life, that's really given me a sense of purpose and direction. And I'm in a better place now to know what the right fit is in a workplace or even in a family. Like, it's just, I think it comes back down to the fact that I really needed to discover who I was as a person and where I wanted to go.
I think when you're early in your 20s and you're like, oh, I know who I am, I know what I want to be, and you get a little bit more under your tooth gets a little longer, and you start realizing, I don't know if that's the right saying, but like
your tooth, more.
I don't know what it is. Your life is, it's happened to me. You kind of reflect back and say, what are the values that were important? And you look back and go, why was I,
right?
What was that?
That wasn't important.
That wasn't important. That wasn't and it. You realize that you're, and I think that's, when you're in it, it's so hard to see it. And, we can talk about it, especially for those people that are young, is like self-reflection, especially when you don't have as much experience, can be one of the biggest benefits. And it's a super hard thing to do.
Oh, absolutely. It's hard. Yeah. Cause again, like you said, you think you know it all, and you're like, what do you mean I did something wrong, or I didn't present this the right way? Like, it's tough. But when you look back, you're like, God, what was I thinking?
And now you know how little you actually know. That's what I think about all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Like how much I really don't know.
I know.
Exactly.
But
So,
well, that was good. That was great.
Mitch,
this
is awesome. Thank you for spending time with us. This has been awesome getting to see you again. And, you've brought so much. I mean, honestly, all the things you said, no one else has said yet. So you broke the mold.
Very good. I learned
I'm glad I was able to throw some curveballs there.
Yeah, I learned. So this has been great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate your time and best of luck in Orlando. And hopefully when we're around, we'll be able to catch up with you more. And we just appreciate the time and thanks again. And so everybody, thanks for joining us on the podcast. Please make sure to follow us. Jen, throw out the socials. You're the best at that.
Follow us on Instagram and X at AthCareerPod. And we will see you guys soon. Thank you so much.
See everyone soon.
Bye.
If you like the 5 Tips and Tricks podcast, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can rate and review us, including questions that may be answered on future episodes. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast for careers in athletics is part of Athletic Career Consulting. Check us out at www.athcareer.com. Don't forget to follow and like us on your top social media platforms.